All right, so we've been talking about in Unit 8 how to earn, how to spend, and how to pay money. And today is the last section of our content, and it's titled How to Save. All right, so we've talked about through your budgets how to earn money, so how we get our disposable income, which is our income after taxes. We've also talked about how to spend money, so fixed costs versus variable costs, so which of your expenses in your monthly budget are the same and which are different. We've also talked about how to pay money, so checks, credit cards, debit cards. Some of you may have already gotten into credit card debt in your PFL project, and now we're going to talk about how to save, all right, and not saving just for the short term, but saving for long term. All right, so why should you save? All right, over time, your money is going to collect interest. All right, so wherever you place your money, the stock market, your savings account, over time, your money will earn money if you leave it alone and save it over time. So here is a video to kind of exemplify that.
Congratulations! You've just landed your new job. And understandably, you're dreaming of everything that you'd like to do with your hard-earned cash. That new car, new tunes, new places. But hey, what about retirement? Retirement? When you retire, you're going to need money for everyday expenses, as well as for what you hope to do in retirement. That money will come from a retirement account. But most workers under 35 have not calculated how much they need to save for retirement. And only 50% are currently saving for retirement at all. This means that many of these workers will need to work longer, maybe even during retirement. But there's another way. If you start saving now, the better off you'll be. Saving for retirement doesn't mean you have to stop having fun. Start with a small amount. As long as you don't withdraw from your retirement account and continue to add money, you'll be able to enjoy the good things in life while investing in your future. How? Let me show you. Let's say you, Jennifer, start putting $1,000 in your employer's retirement plan every year from age 20 to 30, but then stop, making your overall contribution $11,000. And you, Michael, start saving $1,000 a year in the same plan at age 30 and continue until you're 64, contributing a total of $35,000. Guess what happens to that money by the time you're ready to retire? Even though Jennifer put a lot less into her retirement account and stopped contributing by age 30, her account is worth more than Michael's when they retire. That's the power of compounding. Because Jennifer started earlier, the interest earned on her account had longer to grow. That's why you should start early. Even better, had Jennifer continued to save $1,000 every year, she would have even more money in her account when she retires. And many workplace plans match employee contributions, some even dollar for dollar, for an automatic 100% return on your investment. So that's why you should start now, save regularly, and take advantage of free money by contributing enough to get your employer's match. So start now. To learn more about saving for retirement, go to the website you see here. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Labor. Saving matters.
All right. So as we can see, saving is pretty important, all right, overall. People who have a steady job or even who have started their own career, and I hope you know the difference, if they decide to save money and put money into retirement, they don't end up having to be that 70-year-old man who has, or woman who has to go back to work because they've run out of money in their retirement. You don't want to be the person who outlives their money. That is a terrible life to lead. Okay, so now that you've decided to save, which I sincerely hope you have, how are you going to go about doing that? How do you save and how are you going to make money? All right, so here's some key vocab before we start. All right, an account is a registered place where money is stored. Okay, so your savings account, your checking account, things like that. An investor is someone who contributes money to a company in exchange for part of the business. A part of the business, I probably should have added this word in there, but a part of your business is called a share. Okay, so if you've ever heard someone talk about the stock market and they talk about owning shares of a company or they're a shareholder, that's what that means. They own one small piece of the company and they take up both the profits and the losses. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. All right, a dividend is profit from an investment that's given back to the investor. So if you invest money in a company and they do well, that money is going to give you back that company is going to give you back some money from their profits because you put some money in and help them achieve that new profit. All right, that's called a dividend. All right, so if you put money in, your company does well, you get some money back. All right, and a return is just another name for profit. Returns and dividends are typically used interchangeably. All right, let's get rolling. So our first way to save money is obviously in a savings account. Now you open this at the bank. Money mainly just flows in and stays there and only flows out if absolutely necessary. Right, some banks, if you put in savings and you switch money from savings to checking too many times, or your checking account is just your regular account that you spend money out of, and money can flow in and out freely. If you switch between savings and checking too many times, they might charge you a fee because your savings account looks less like a savings account and more like a checking account if money is flowing in and out all the time. All right, so the purpose of a savings account is for you to put it away for a rainy day, so to speak. All right, so if you've got an emergency, if you've hit a wild card in your budget at this point, if you've got to buy new tires, if some of your friends get married, if you decide that you want to take a trip somewhere and you don't have any money in your checking account to do so, you can turn to your savings, but it is a best practice if you just put money in and leave it. All right, so, I couldn't resist. I got a checking and a savings. All right. Number 2 is a certificate of deposit. These are known as CDs, not the ones that you put in your car, all right, but a certificate of deposit. This is basically a savings account on just a little bit of steroids, all right? So it's got a set interest rate, so you earn interest, and if you put money in there, it might earn 5% per year. So whatever monetary amount you have at the end of the year, 5% of that gets given to you by the bank free of charge, all right? It also has a maturity date. All right, so you have a maturity date as a person. Not to say that you're mature, but the United States government recognizes you as a legal adult when you turn 18. That's your maturity date as a person. A CD, this savings account, also has a maturity date, so you cannot take money out until that set number of years has happened. All right, typically this can be anywhere from 10 to 20 or even longer. All right, so this CD does have a maturity date, and you cannot touch any money until that date happens. Right, not a CD like this, but a certificate of deposit. All right, number 3 is a money market account. This is a savings account with like a relatively high amount of steroids. It's also got a high minimum deposit. So instead of somebody having to put a regular savings account, you only have to put like $25 a month in there. All right, a money market account is like 10 grand at a time. All right, these are for people who are rolling in it, and this is typically also used for retirement accounts and also by businesses who are going to be able to put that extra 10 grand in there at a time. All right, so it's got a high interest rate, so you're going to earn a lot of money, right? But it also is higher risk because you have to be able to put 10 grand in to start with and keep at least 10 grand in there at all times. All right, number 4 is a savings bond. This is when you invest money with the United States Treasury. So you are putting money into the United States government for them to use, and then after typically about 20 years of investment, your bonds double. So let's say that you fill out a bond. It looks like this. All right, let's say that you fill out a bond for $5,000, all right, and you put it in there today in 2018. Let's see what the year is, all right. And now 20 years from now, so in 2038, this $5,000 has now doubled to $10,000, plus you get interest on top of that. So let's say that you get 10% interest. All right. Not only do you get your 10 grand, you also get an extra $1,000 in interest from the United States government. So you give the government $5 grand, and they do with it what they please. It's kind of a supplement to what taxes contribute to our national budget. But then after 20 years, the government gives you back double your money plus interest. All right, so this is relatively moderate in terms of risk because you will get your money back. However, you do have to be willing to put in a lot of money up front. Okay, and number 5 is stocks. You got to give money to a business and they pay you back dividends. So, like we talked about already, it's your profits if they make a profit, and you lose money if the company does. All right. So this is the New York Stock Exchange. This is what NYSE stands for. So if you've ever heard that weird stock market bell that you might hear on the news, this is basically the stock market floor where it happens. All right. So large businesses, which are called corporations, and we'll get into those in great detail in Unit 9. All right. A corporation doesn't have just one owner. So it's not like this mom and pop place that only has one or two owners. It has a whole bunch of owners. All right, you can buy stock in all kinds of companies. So you can buy one little piece of the company. It's called a share. All right, and if you buy a share of that company, that means that you are part owner of the business and you own that small piece of said business. Okay, and if you own it, let's say that you buy stock in Amazon. All right, everybody knows Amazon is fantastic. All right, they get the people going. You can get pretty much anything you need on Amazon. All right, so one share or one part of the business is worth $1,700, give or take a few bucks here and there. All right, so if you want to buy one piece of Amazon, that means that you have to pay $1,700 to Amazon, to the stock exchange, and they will give you one piece of Amazon's company. All right, and if Amazon does well that day, they might make $1 or $2. And if Amazon does not do well that day, you might lose $1 or $2. All right, with stocks, it is a best practice to buy stocks and just leave them alone and let them do what they do. Because over time, if you invest in a good company that you know is going to last a while, all right, your stocks are going to increase in value. Number 6 is mutual funds. All right, so this is kind of like a squad savings account, so to speak. All right, so investors pool all of their money together and they allow a manager to invest it. So let's say you and 10 of your closest friends are all doing relatively well in your careers, and you decide instead of just one of you investing in the stock market, you all want to go in together and you want to pool your money as a group. All right, so let's say that you have $100,000 as a group. All right, so you allow a manager, somebody who knows more about the stock market than you do in your career, all right, you let them invest it in companies, so buy specific pieces of companies that they think are going to do well, and then all of the returns are split between the investors, but they're split what's called proportionally. So if you put in 20 out of that $100,000, you get 20% of the profits. If you put in 60 grand of that $100,000, then you get 60% of the profits back. So the amount that you receive is proportional to the amount that you put in or contribute to the mutual fund. All right, so this is kind of what it looks like. So you have a whole bunch of people who have stocks, right, and then your manager or team of managers help invest that for you so you don't have to stress about it. All right, so which one should you choose? It just depends, all right? If you will fill in your triangle on your note sheet, it looks like this. All right, so the higher the risk, the higher the return, the further up we go in the pyramid. And the lower the risk, the lower the return, the farther down we go. So cash, savings accounts, money market accounts, and CDs are pretty much relatively low risk. You don't get a whole lot of interest back on them, but you also don't have to risk a whole lot of your money. All right, government bonds are a little more high risk because you have to put so much money in there at one time. Stocks are pretty risky because you might not get your money back. All right, if you invest into a bad company that went bankrupt, like if you invested in Wachovia Bank, which has now turned into Wells Fargo, you're not going to be doing so hot because all of your stock in Wachovia is now worth nothing because that company doesn't exist anymore. They went bankrupt. All right, so you have to be careful where you place your stocks. And then the most high risk is collectibles. So this is saying like you flip houses or you flip cars. So you'll buy, let's say that you're into like American muscle cars and you buy a couple Camaros, you buy a couple Challengers. We're talking about like 60s and 70s here, not the new ones that are weird, all right? So you buy old cars, you flip them and you restore them and then you sell them to other people and make a profit off of those. Now, that's very high risk because if you've ever seen like the HGTV shows about flip or flop or things like that, people flip houses for like 60 grand at a time. However, they're also sinking in a lot of their money at one time. So it's very high risk and also very high return. And it's up to you where your comfort level is in terms of risk versus return. All right, and speaking of returns, interest is a two-way street. All right, so hopefully you can fill this in. When you are paying APR, aka interest, remember they're the same thing, you want your interest rate to be low because you do not get interest back. However, when you're receiving APR, you want it to be as high as possible. All right, so how does the stock market work? We'll get into that in our next video. This has been How to Save Part 1.